My name is Robert McKinna, and over the past 10 plus months, I've been completing my final year design project at Loughborough University. But on top of all of that, I've been recording every step of the way because I want to take you on a journey, showing you both the highs and the lows of my project and how it has developed over the past 10 months. But most importantly, I want to show the world how using inclusive design can empower so many social minority groups, including those with MS. So sit back, relax, and join me on my journey through Project Phoenix. Awesome, so I'm going to do some user testing with Balraj and Iran. So got some stuff to show you guys. So one of the things that we talked about last week was when I gave you those foam models for you to hold to see what you guys thought. Yeah. So I developed the design a bit further, and this is the kind of design I've come up with. So this is what would clip onto the front of your torso, and this is where the main sensor would be, and that basically communicates with your app. But the main thing I want to know from you is what you think about it in terms of how it looks, and also what you think in terms of like just how it feels, and just whether you like it as well.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Yeah, I mean, I'm quite happy with that in the middle.
Well, it's an option.
No, it's good. It's good. It's a start, isn't it? It's new development, first mover, isn't it?
Yeah.
To be honest, I love that.
Yeah. Do you like this in terms of the aesthetics of like how it looks?
100%.
Yeah.
Transformers.
Yeah, that was the kind of vibe I was trying to go with.
Transformers.
Yeah, it's a very kind of.
And that is very good.
What is it doing?
Yeah. So this is another thing. So this is like the the pocket that goes on the back of the inner layer of the vest, and that's where the battery is held.
This will be the battery size.
Yeah. So that's how big it would have to be. And annoyingly, I can't really make it much smaller because of just how.
Back, I don't say back's fine. Yeah, I'll say back's fine.
Outside.
And if you, yeah.
So Balraj has now just tried on the vest just to see what you think in terms of the prototype and everything. So of course the prototype it's only really functional, interactional. It's not aesthetics wise. It's very much just focusing upon how you would like put on the vest and interact with it. But overall, like, what did you think about it? What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? What do you think could be better?
I like the material. I like the Velcro, but the magnetic aspect of it wasn't really the best, I don't think.
Yeah, they were playing with going down the side.
Yeah. The what's the word? The material is quite good. And I think, yeah, again, I prefer it short sleeve because I feel like if you have it like full sleeve, I feel like it's just going to be too much to like sort of, again, unless it obviously creates more connection. Yeah, it just gives you a bit more to go with, to be honest. Yeah,
that makes sense. I'll talk through the garment specifically. So this is the inner layer. So the first thing is on the top. One thing I was considering is it's for adjusting the height from the shoulders. And I was wondering, would you guys prefer it if the garment has this adjustability of where it is a buckle that slides along, going up and down to adjust that height, or would you prefer it if the garment is kind of fixed already in terms of how its shoulder is?
I reckon if you do it that way, then you could promote it as one size.
Yeah.
If you do it in a fixed way, then you have to have your smalls, mediums, extra larges.
Yeah.
Well, I would prefer a wider strap. If it's adjustable, great. Then it can work, and anyone, pretty much any size can adjust it.
So, annoyingly, this didn't go as well as I wanted it to. But so this is the central belt that goes around your torso. So it goes around this point here, going around on your torso.
Around the ribcage.
Yeah, and what I wanted it to be is that it could fit to anybody in terms of their width, and so it has a Velcro strap.
So it's adjustable.
Here on the side, yeah. So it's adjustable. So it would just
basically,
work as a belt.
It works with what you're saying.
Yeah, it's
So
just
when
whether you
comes
want
down
it.
to is should the garment be adjustable or not?
Yes, to some degree, and it's whether you want that, because I'm trying to balance it up of accessibility but also comfort and those points of interaction, whether they are inclusive or not.
Comfort, if it's adjustable, and it's down to the person how tight and loose they adjust it to.
Yeah.
So long as you've got nothing jabbing and digging into you, to the person, and it's like flat.
Yeah.
We're good.
So what do you think in terms of like having the adjustability around your torso, the middle? Because I know when you were using it, you changed where it was, but you didn't interact, because I didn't want to tell you, I wanted to see how you would interact with it naturally, but you didn't interact with the fact that there was a Velcro strap there. If you knew about that, would you interact with it? Would you care more about the tightness around here, or what was your thoughts on it?
It was right, yeah, it's fine. It wasn't. I'd say a little bit bigger, but that's it. It just depends on obviously size, doesn't it? It just depends on everybody's size.
Yeah. And then moving on to the kind of outer layer of the vest. So this was the thing that I played around with. I'll let you hold that. This was the thing I played around with, Erin, in terms of having one side that is magnets, one side that is Velcro, just to kind of see what you thought. Because as far as I can tell, Balraj, in terms of your interaction with it, what did you find that was easier to use, or what would be more beneficial for somebody like yourself who is only slightly a little bit more able-bodied than
Velcro, 100%.
Okay.
I definitely prefer.
Why is that? Sorry.
It's just more comfortable, like with the magnetics.
Is it with the digging in?
No, it's just a bit more like flimsy. That's what I found.
What do you think in terms of that?
Velcro just felt a bit more secure.
Yeah.
So I haven't tried it on.
Yeah.
I understand the concept of what he's trying to say. This will make the garment more stiffer and more secure. Where the button side of it is more flimsy, like you said.
So one of the things that was testing out on the vest is, in fact, where these holes are. So the idea is that one way that you could make the vest accessible for people of different body sizes and different torso shapes is that where the two holes are, if you say I have to get this the right way around. If you have a shorter torso, you wouldn't use the holes that are in the center for where you put the central panel. You would use the higher ones, because that gap between where those holes are and the top of your shoulders is smaller. But if you have a bigger torso, you would then use lower holes, because that gap is then bigger from there to the top of your torso. The idea is, hopefully, you theoretically would be able to take a medium or large size garment, a garment that's like in the middle in terms of sizing of the torso, and then be able to make it so that it can fit other users by just the fact of that you select where you put the central panel yourself. That's something I'm playing around with, whether that's worth it or not. Or in the kind of shopping experience of it, you would say, I'm a medium, so I buy the medium outer layer, so it doesn't matter. The holes will be in the right place, or should be around about the right place anyway. It's kind of what your thoughts are around that.
You can make it easier and easier and easier, but is it still going to be appealing to the eye? The latter.
Yeah, so with the extra adjustability, it does mean that you would be able to see holes on the front. So is that something that you feel as though would aesthetic?
The gym is ventilation.
Yeah. So, but aesthetically, do you think that ruins it, or do you think if?
So it's just, we're talking aesthetics here.
Yeah, if we're just talking aesthetics, do you think that by having those holes there that it ruins it, or do you think that they're subtle enough that it probably doesn't matter as much, or just to whatever your preference is, really?
It's subtle. Personally. It's just subtle, is it?
Awesome stuff. So one last thing that I've been trying to work out is in terms of the actual vest's aesthetics and the kind of colours around it, the branding that goes with it. Of course, a lot of what people wear in the gym is very kind of black and grey. However, something that is black is going to in fact absorb more heat and so most likely make it worse. My ideas at the moment were kind of leaning towards the garment being a lighter blue and the central panel being a kind of white colour.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. It's very dependent on what you think would look best. And I can send some visuals over once I've done them, but...
Don't do pink.
The blue didn't
Not the
sound,
best
it
with
sound fine. Blue.
So this may look a little bit stupid, but I finished doing user testing yesterday with Balraj and Iran, and it was incredibly helpful, so helpful for me to finally define some of the final little details and things that will be going on for the overall solution. And one thing that I wanted to define was where the placement of the holes would be for this vest. And so luckily, now because I've got the place of where Balraj wanted his there and where I estimated them to be, it now means I've worked out, also in accordance with where I would put mine, that it's around about 4 to 5 centimeters in terms of the gaps of where the holes have to be for different sizes. It's also made me realize though that most likely for this concept to be feasible, it would need to have 2 sizes. So it would need to have a smaller torso size so that then the range of holes doesn't have to be so big, and then you would have a larger size. But already that's massively better than if I was trying to sell it as extra small all the way to extra large or something like that. So I think that overall it's a good success, and I'm glad that it's worked out. And it made sense to Balraj when he was using it, of like how you put it in there and how you put it in the right place, and how that makes sense in terms of the gap going from there to the top of your shoulders. So I'm really glad that worked out well. Overall, I'm pretty happy, and I'm gonna crack on and get the final little bits here and there sorted of the functionality side of things, which is awesome. Especially considering today's Sunday and tomorrow term starts again. And yeah, I'm normally looking forward to it, but I'm feeling quite tired as it is and in need of a break. But yeah, we will push on and push through and see what comes out on the other side. So I've just finished a pretty busy day at design school. I've been going backwards and forwards between the design school here and textiles across the road, just trying to get stuff done and find people. But overall, really good progress. So this is something that my flatmate David helped to make for me. Shout out to David last night, which basically illustrates of the kind of fins that I'm wanting to put on the back of the vest. And it's just so that the air, when it flows over, is able to go onto the inside. So I want to be able to make this out of fabric. And so something that I've been doing today, I've been feeling what different kind of textures fabrics have, how they are in terms of their stretchiness, and what would be most appropriate for the whole of the vest, and even for areas of breathability. And so I've purchased a few fabrics which hopefully are on their way this week. I'm gonna use them and see if using a laser cutter and using a DXF file, we can cut this pattern out to be able to try and see what it is actually like with the fabric, how the fabric behaves. And hopefully, fingers crossed, the idea is that when it is flat, it doesn't stick out that much, but hopefully with the contour of somebody's back, it then means that they stick out a little bit more, which is a bit difficult to see on camera, but you can see it there just a little bit more like this. There you go. And hopefully that is what will happen and allow for airflow to go on to both cool the person and also to keep the thermoelectric fabric cool, because that needs to stay cool and needs to make sure it doesn't overheat. That is the plan. That's what we're going to go with and see what happens. But busy rest of the week this week and going into next week, trying to create visuals for a degree show booklet that we have. We will see what happens. So had a bit of a late one tonight. but I've been doing some sketching, as you can hopefully see on screen. So I've sketched the final visuals basically of the inner layer, well, the inner vest and the outer vest. So I'm glad that's done and that's kind of there, and it's there as well to be played with as well. So if I want to move the logo, or if I want to change the color of the vest to see what it would look like, then I can play around with that as well, which is fantastic. So at the moment we are going with a blue, mainly because the blue kind of denotes to that psychological feeling of cooling. It also is trustworthy in terms of its color, and it seems to go well as a contrast with the logo overall, in terms of the logo being white, and it's soft. It's something that isn't too out there, too striking, and I found from speaking with Balraj and Iran that it seemed to be the most appropriate color that we could go for. We will see what happens and see what we come up with, and fingers crossed it should all work out in the end. That's what I'm hoping. What a beautiful day. Oh, wow. But here we go, we're on week 9 of final year project. And it's going okay, we're getting there. Just got a deadline this week for visuals, and then we will be there. We'll be done. So it has been a crazy week this week. So one thing that I'm going to do today is I'm going to build an electronics prototype again with Arduino to be able to prove the functionality of essentially what I'm saying. So the way that it works overall is that the vest is meant to measure your core body temperature via heat flux sensors, and then that is then meant to tell essentially the thermoelectric fabric to either switch on or switch off according to when the person needs cooling and when they don't. So my plan is I'm going to make a basic circuit to prove this with a little Peltier cell to show that basically once temperature goes up, once the temperature sensor reads that, this should switch on and start doing the cooling process. Fingers crossed. So I've got it to work in the end. So as you can see, the light is on, you apply extra temperature, and eventually as the temperature increases, the light will switch off and the Peltier cell now switches on. You can feel a slight cooling sensation, which is exactly what we need. It's hard for it to be the full intensity of what it needs to be because there just isn't enough voltage going through, but it works, which is fantastic. This electronic circuit proves what is meant to happen within the vest. As the heat flux sensor reads that your temperature is increased, it will then switch the Peltier plates, which is the thermoelectric fabric, on to be able to then cool you. So yeah, I'm happy that has worked. Absolutely chuffed to bits that works. And yeah, I'll continue doing some prototyping. One thing that I have also done in terms of the back battery holder is slightly change the aesthetics of especially the top casing. And this is mainly just because when I was looking at it and I spoke to participants, it was a kind of a form of feedback that came across as though that the aesthetics didn't align with what the central panel is as well. And so to align it a bit better, I've changed the design slightly in terms of giving it a more triangulated angular form on the top casing. So I'm going to 3D print this now, and hopefully when that is done in a couple of hours, be able to see how it is, interact with it, and hopefully this will be the final defined aesthetic to be the back battery holder. really happy with this, and the aesthetic, as you can see, hopefully as I hold it in the light, aligns so much more with the central panel. So really happy that this has come out the way it has. And yeah, I'm gonna add some poppers on the back and actually use it in the final user testing evaluation that I need to do. So a key part of the vest is the ventilation, and that's really key for any running vest, just to make sure that the user is able to have some form of breathability and is able to have, as you're kind of running along, the air when it flows over you actually be able to cool you down as well naturally. And so something that I've been playing around with is an element that goes on the back of the vest, which is these fins. So these fins, essentially, it was taken off from another sporting garment that I saw, with where they used a similar style of fins to be able to help with lift, and it was to be able to help a triple jumper. So they would open up to then allow for the air to go in to then help lift the jumper up, so they technically could go further. Now, of course, that's kind of very theoretical, but what I was intending to use them for is more of in terms of aerodynamics. So if you have this on the back of the individual, as the air flows over the shoulder, over the top of the user, my aim is that usually the air will then continue, but it creates this turbulent wake around this area, which usually would then create lift. And so my theory is that in that turbulent wake will be air that will get caught in these fins and should go into the fins themselves and essentially put air onto the user. But more importantly, this is being done because I don't need just air to go onto the user's back. I need it to actually go onto the thermoelectric fabric so that it stays cool, because otherwise, if the thermoelectric fabric isn't cooled itself, it will then overheat and it would be useless. So my plan is, these are some of the fins that were laser cut earlier on this week, thanks to one of the technicians at the college, and they're absolutely brilliant. I love them as well in terms of the aesthetic appeal. They're really cool, really interesting. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them on a vest and actually test how they are, because I need to make sure that from the theory that I have created within my portfolio, that then aligns with what actually happens in real life. So yeah, I'm going to put these onto the back of the vest and then actually go for a little run to see what it feels like, whether the air actually goes in and whether the principles of this works overall. So I've now put that together, and we now have the fins on the back of the vest, and they also have little holes in them, so you can just see there poking through. That's all ready to go to try as a prototype and just see how it really reacts once I'm running with it. So I'm out here this morning on a field just to kind of test out the fins on this prototype. So they're just on my back here, you can see them there. Basically you're going to have just to do a lap to see what happens, to see if the airflow actually goes up into the vents of the fins or whether it doesn't at all. So yeah, the easiest way to do this is just literally to experiment with actually going on a little bit of a run. So that is what I'm going to do. Nice, so I've just had a little bit of a run around, and it's worked differently than I expected. So I expected to feel a lot more of the airflow going into the fins. However, what you actually feel is a little bit of lift, which kind of makes sense because the design that this is inspired off was for a triple jumper suit to help them be able to stay in the air longer. So it does kind of make some sense. But overall, there isn't enough air flowing to it. There is the potential that this can still work, but I will have to change the sizes of the vents as well to make sure that they are big enough in terms of the gaps, but also that the fins aren't too big, because I find that they potentially are covering up the gaps because they are of a greater size at the moment. But I certainly think as well, once the sides have areas of breathability, have vents, then it's certainly something that should be able to work. It's just going to take a little bit more experimentation, but overall not a bad test, and it has shown me that this isn't the final solution, but it's something that can certainly work, and 100% it will help to dissipate the air that will come from the thermoelectric fabric. All of the hot air will easily be able to escape now that there's those vents there on my back. So yeah, back to the drawing board a little bit. So I was just putting the CAD together that is ready to be a DXF file, so that then the new design for the fins can be laser cut. And essentially this is now what it looks like. So this is the new design of how it would be on your back as a kind of back plate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this up so that I can create it into a paper version of what is going to be laser cut, hopefully in the next day or two. And just see what it looks like really, and see how big the fins are in comparison to the fins that I already have. So I've finished creating the paper prototype. And oh my gosh, I'm beaming, I'm so happy with it. It just looks so cool. I don't know what it is, but there's something about when you see like shapes like this, and kind of in origami as well, and the way that the light bounces off it as well, it just looks so cool. And I think it ties in beautifully with the fact that the name of the vest is Phoenix, and this looks like kind of feathers, very kind of also like scales, like a dragon scale or something like that. Very inspired by animals in a way, which ironically where I got it from originally was as well. So I'm so happy with this. If the fabric looks anything close to this, I will be so happy. This is one of the cool things that I was thinking about when I was making this prototype, is the fact that so many products usually that are made, especially within the medical industry, for people with disabilities, usually aesthetically, it's either that form follows function, and so it looks very boring, it doesn't look attractive at all, and that's the thing that I'm trying to press out with my work. I don't ever want to launch a product or develop a product that looks boring, mundane, and aesthetically just not attractive, because what's the point of having something in your house that you accept of having because it has this great functionality, but it looks terrible? That's something that I truly believe, that even when, say, you get to the end or close to the end of your life, that every product that you should have shouldn't be making you feel like not confident about yourself. I feel as though everything should feel as though it has a form of empowerment for you. And so that's why something like these fins is a massive thing for me. I remember saying it to Balraj at one point, of that the way I want this vest to be designed is that it's so cool to look at, and that it just looks epic, whatever way that you kind of determine how it is cool or it is epic, that then people who don't have a disability are interested. Because I believe if I can achieve that, and when I show it off at the degree show, I can have people saying, I want to buy that, I want to wear that, that looks so cool. And they're not disabled, they're looking past the fact that this is a product to help people with multiple sclerosis, and the fact that it's just a cool aesthetic design. That's when I feel like I've hit a point of inclusivity, because that is what inclusive design should be. It should be so cool that everybody wants it because of the aesthetics, because of how easy it is to use, and ultimately that then means more people that have a disability or from a minority background will then be able to use products confidently and actually feel empowered. Like, oh my gosh, I so badly hope that this achieves that. If anything, like, throw the grade out the window. If I get people at the degree show saying, I want that vest, that looks awesome, that looks amazing, and Balraj and Iran are happy with it, I will be ecstatic. So yeah, but anyways, continuing with development. So we've now put the paper prototype together, and now I'm gonna wait for it to be laser cut. I'll wait from there to see then what it looks like in fabric. So the last thing that I'm going to do this evening is I'm going to stick the new laser cut fins onto the vest. These are the new ones, so they're a little bit smaller. They also open a little bit better, which is fantastic, and it's a different kind of pattern in terms of how it goes onto the back of the vest. So I'm going to stick that onto one of the last vests that I have. So yeah, if anything goes wrong, I'm a bit stuffed. I don't have any more vests, but I'm going to put it onto the back of that vest, go for a little run tomorrow morning, see how it behaves, and yeah, we'll see what happens. So I've just been starting my run. I'm now down here on the canal, and the fins are very much working. You can just see them at the back. It's harder to show you because these ones are considerably smaller, but already I'm actually feeling a considerable more benefit than last time, and I think it is partially contributing to the fact that these sides on this running vest open up a lot more, which is really helpful. And my seam pattern, that is something that I can take into consideration to make sure that airflow is going into the sides to then help cooling the thermoelectric fabric. I'm gonna go for a little bit of a run and see what happens with the fins and see how it feels as well. So yeah, the fins seem to work really well. The key thing, as with last time, is making sure that they stay open. As long as they stay open, then it's okay. It's when they're closing that becomes a bit of an issue. But overall, that seems to be kind of where the final design will be. I aesthetically absolutely love it. I know that from speaking to Balraj and Iran, they love it as well. And I'm sure that so many people using this running vest would love it as well. Because at the end of the day, it's gonna make you look awesome, and it's gonna help the thermoelectric fabric to be able to ventilate and get air away. Get all of the hot air away from the fabric. So yeah, I'm really happy. I'm gonna run back home now and continue doing some more development. So one of the things that I'm wanting to explore as I'm kind of going along is that I wanted to make sure that the interaction with the central panel button of where you switch on and off the whole vest and the whole system, that is inclusive. And a key part of that, I feel, is that interaction of pressing it. So in that, I was thinking about, okay, so how can that be inclusive? So it needs to be tactile. And so there's going to be a major focus upon the fact that you can actually feel the on and off symbol. The fact that as well that I'm going to look into kind of applying a texture to it so that is textured whilst the rest of it isn't. So you can clearly feel that is the on and off button. But also the key thing that I've been playing around with is in fact this. So this little bit is in fact the end of a pen. And it's because I know for a fact that when you're using a pen and you click down on a pen, it has the auditory feedback of the kind of clicking sound that is able to make you feel as though you know that the pen has been set in such a way. And so that's the same kind of feeling that I want to be created with the pushing of my button, that you know that once it is depressed into the surface, that it is now set and ready to go, and that it has switched the vest on. And also it's the fact of it's that pushing sensation, that push, that feels as though it's something that's strong, that's sturdy, that doesn't feel as though it is something that's weak or that could break. And so I feel like there's a lot within this and within that experience of just simply pushing the button. So the only thing that I need to do in terms of making a prototype myself is I'm taking this cam system from a pen that I have. I've broken it off the end, and I'm just going to apply a end bit to attach to here. So we need to have our bit that then hopefully can have a spring around it, so that then there is a bit of a springing action. Essentially, it is taking this central bit of the pen and shortening it and making it more sturdy. So that is the plan that is what we're going to create and 3D print, hopefully relatively quickly, and see what we can make from all of this. So this has taken quite a few goes, and I'll be honest, it has really tired me out. For something that should be so simple, it has been an absolute pain in the neck. And I've created multiple failed prototypes that just have not worked. I've had to break into them to try and fix them and get pieces out. But luckily, we finally have this little thing. Now, it may look very simple, but basically it's trying to simulate what the feeling is of pushing down the button that would be on the central panel. So it is literally the same as a pen mechanism. You push down, you can feel it compress and depress in, and you know now for a fact if you were to feel that that is so close to the edge that it must be on at the time. A bit like when you press down on a pen, you know that when this is at a certain height, the pen is out and it's ready to use. And then instantly, both in terms of auditory feedback and feeling, you're able to then see it go straight back up. So that is what I've created. It's a very basic prototype, but it proves the functionality of it. It proves the simulation of how this would work. And so this is what it'd be like to press the central panel button on, and then to switch it off. So something that I've just been playing around with, which I have struggled with in the past because usually when I try to apply a texture, it only does it to the wrong bits of my CAD model of where I don't want it. But in fact, it has seemed to work, as you can see here. So I'm trying to create a contrast in terms of the texture of where the button is and where the rest of the part is. And so hopefully I'm going to try and 3D print this top part at least and see if this works. So I've 3D printed a version with the texture that is more embossed, shall we say, more extruded, and it seems to have worked pretty well. So you can now actually feel the texture in comparison to the smoother surface. But of course, this is something that, say, if this part was injection molded or if it was vacuum cast or however it is manufactured, then this form of texture that would be on the button would be a lot easier to feel than it is with the 3D printing, because the 3D printing has certain limitations when it comes to the kind of textures and when you're trying to create little patterns on the side of surfaces. But overall, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm going to make a few little changes for the final one, but this is nearly there in terms of making that texture difference and what I want to achieve in terms of the tactile feel between the button and the rest of the central panel. Hello. So here is an update for you. So we're just getting towards the end of week 10, like it is literally Sunday. One last thing that I'm going to be playing around with as well as a finalized little prototype is, so this is the prototype that was used for temperature sensing, and the key thing I want is the LED. So I don't think I have any blue LEDs, but I want to play around basically with lighting and the central panel and how that works to make sure that then you have that secondary cue of understanding, okay, I've pressed this button, the vest is now on. A bit like this visualization that you can see there. That's what I'm going to be mainly playing about with and seeing if I can somehow achieve that. So yeah, gonna have a play around right now with the LED and see what I can do with it, see if I can get it to work. Awesome stuff. So got the light to work and it works relatively well considering the prototype and how it shines through. So yeah, gonna progress on. Not sure what I'm going to be doing next, just mainly portfolio work at the moment, trying to get that all sorted, and then cracking on into next week. It's just a lot of coursework for a lot of different things, but it'll get done some way, somehow.